Welcome to PsychLearn Insights. I am Sarah, a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Joining me is my brother, Steve.
That's me.
Today, our topic is Madame Delphine LaLaurie.
This crazy woman.
This is a lot. This is a lot. And it's a story of medical atrocities, slavery, abuse, and torture. So, trigger warning. If this is not for you, just please join us next episode. Some of this is history and some of it is lore.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is like whenever I was doing on the research on this, it was like I knew the story kind of, but like delving into it, it was like, wow, this is a lot.
It's a lot. And some of the story is true.
Yeah. Some of it is lore and some of it is embellished, but a lot of it is very, very true. And the true parts are even more horrifying than, it's a lot.
So before we start talking about this evil woman, should we talk about New Orleans?
Absolutely.
That's where this takes place, in good old New Orleans.
Gritty New Orleans.
Yes. What do you love about New Orleans?
So whenever we went together, I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun.
Last year.
Yep.
What was your favorite part? Like place or?
I mean, we went to the French Quarter. We really didn't go like outside. And I would like to explore the other parts, but
Well, we did go to Frenchman Street.
Yeah, we did do that.
For the music. That's a lot of fun.
That music was probably the best. My goodness.
That's good.
Remember the name of the place, but that band that was playing that night.
Wasn't it like Balubas or something?
Yeah, I don't know. But you remember one of the guys was the one that was playing in the square earlier in the day? And then we found him. We were looking for music and there was like techno and all this. And I was like, no, man, I want to hear like real jazz and I want to see that brass and all that. And then we found it. That was amazing.
Yeah. What instruments did they have going?
A couple trombones. And then the one dude came in after a couple hours. He was like wrapped in a huge tuba. And he
just walked around playing the tuba, walking around the crowd.
It is so awesome. And remember that one dude was just blowing I think it was a trombone, like right in Jake's face. It was like, Jake was like, damn, that's loud.
Front row seat. So Jake, for everyone out there, is my husband and our editor.
Hi, Jake.
I think we should have a Jake's take every once in a while.
I think so.
Jake has some interesting views. Entertaining. So I love New Orleans because I feel like it welcomes everybody. It welcomes weirdos. Everyone feels welcome.
Guilty. Yeah.
Just like this podcast, we welcome weirdos. And
absolutely.
Psychos, psychots, everybody. Yeah. Everybody's welcome.
Weirdos, psychos, just crime junkie, fanatics. Just let's go. Everything I love.
Anybody who wants to talk about, I guess, who has a curious mind, who likes history, lore, psychology, psychopathy, psychiatry, all things related to the human psyche, you're in the right place.
Absolutely.
So Madame Delphine LaLaurie, not to be confused with Marie Laveau, right? Because she's another very prominent person in New Orleans history, and they often get confused. And Marie Laveau, who we're not talking about today, was the voodoo priestess in New Orleans. And we should probably do an episode on her sometime.
I am guilty of confusing the two. Before doing the research on this, I thought it was the same, but definitely not.
So I had never been to New Orleans until I was in my 30s. And then Jake and I went for like a long weekend. And what I fell in love with was the architecture. It's beautiful. These homes are gorgeous. Along with the grittiness of it, the music, the jazz music is amazing. The food is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Jambalaya, red fish, red beans and rice, gumbo, all of it is so good.
Red beans and rice. There's a song about that.
Sing it.
From a band that I really love, Spearhead.
I have not heard that.
But he sings a whole song about red beans and rice. And the lyric is, red beans and rice, red beans and rice. I could eat a plate twice.
2 plates, please. So while I was there with Jake for the very first time, we had to do the obligatory ghost tour.
Of course.
And the story that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck was when we stopped in front of 1140 Royal Street, previous
Famous.
home to Madame Delphine LaLaurie, known as the LaLaurie Mansion. The last time I was there with Jake, I had to go by there, of course.
Of
It
course.
was in December. It was decorated with Christmas lights, beautifully grotesque at the same time. It was just bizarre because I knew this haunting story, and then
The gross
it looked
story behind it.
beautiful, Christmas lights all over it. So it was really weird.
Beautifully cringy.
Cringy, yes, and I'll upload that picture so whoever's
Wait,
watching can see.
didn't we walk
So
by that
we did, yeah,
whenever
in
we were
French Quarter.
yeah, and I remember looking up at it, and I was like I don't know if, just a chill came through the air or
It is
it was
creepy.
if it was, like, I don't know, everybody says whenever there's, like, spirits and stuff in the air that, like, a cold sweep will come through. I felt that. I mean, it was hot, but all of a sudden, I, like, kinda got chills, and I was like, "Where'd that come from?"
It's supposedly the most haunted house in New Orleans, if you believe in that sort of thing. So the story goes Madame LaLaurie was a rich, high society Creole woman who was married to a French doctor. They threw lavish parties and were written up in the local papers and were known well in high society. One night, a young enslaved girl caught a tangle while brushing out Madame LaLaurie's hair. It was told that Madame grew so angry that she grabbed a bullwhip and chased the poor girl up the stairs. The young girl ran out onto the balcony, and rather than face Madame LaLaurie, she flung herself off the balcony to her death. The body of the young girl was brought in and buried in the courtyard near a well. A neighbor witnessed the incident, and the well-known LaLauries were then investigated for cruelty to their enslaved people, and many of them were taken away from them. I believe it was about 9. However, a relative got those enslaved people back and brought them back to Madame LaLaurie.
And then just
Yep.
can you imagine you're, undergoing this harsh punishment under this evil, evil woman, and then she finally has to go to court, and you think you're gonna be released to go back to her, and then on top of that, can you imagine her resentment, and she's more pissed off now than and deranged than she ever was, and then you
Mhm.
have to go back to her house? Now you're gonna she's gonna seek revenge on you. That blows my mind. Absolutely terrifying. You think, "Finally, I'm out of here," and then boom, you're right back
Because
in.
who is she going to take that out on?
Them.
Her embarrassment, her public embarrassment and anger.
Absolutely.
So, on a horrific night on April 10th, 1834, fire broke out in the LaLaurie Mansion. Neighbors and citizens rushed in to assist. Rather than direct the citizens to help rescue the enslaved people, the LaLauries were only concerned with their artwork and items of possession in the home. They were actually telling people, oh, save this art, get the furniture. Disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting, and then they had, like, volunteer firefighters and then, like, actual, like, law enforcement and stuff there, and they were asking, "Can we" this I can't even believe I'm saying this sentence, but their slaves were basically equal to, like, livestock
Yeah, it's
and,
horrible.
like,
They were items
cattle.
of possession.
Yeah, and they knew that they were up there. They had to ask permission to go up and save them, and they declined.
The doctor told them to mind their own business.
Yeah, he was like, "No, they're fine, don't worry about it." Listen.
So, one of the volunteers that rushed over to the home to help was a local judge.
Mhm.
And they could hear the cries of people. And so they had to break down doors and bars to rescue these enslaved people. And they were discovered in horrible conditions, locked and chained upstairs and in the kitchen
On,
in various
like,
states of physical
collars.
abuse.
Yeah, like, chained in collars and yeah, it was horrifying.
And the story goes, it's atrocious. Body parts removed and reattached, mouths stitched closed.
Mhm.
An enslaved woman in the kitchen looked malnourished and was chained to the stove. She reported starting the fire as retribution, as being the grandmother of the young girl that Madame LaLaurie had chased off the balcony to her death. The LaLauries then fled the mansion due to the protests and outcries. The LaLauries vanished into the night, leaving behind the mansion steeped in the anguish of their past. And the neighbors just got pissed and just really
They tried
destroyed
on her.
everything.
Yeah, they just pulled it brick by brick, just destroyed the whole place.
Today, the LaLaurie Mansion stands as one of the most haunted properties in New Orleans, a chilling reminder of the atrocities that once transpired within its walls. The echoes of the tortured souls still whisper through the corridors, and the city remembers, forever haunted by the tragic legacy of Madame Delphine McCarty LaLaurie. Now, this was the story told on the tour. I'm sure if you take a tour,
Mhm.
every story is a little bit different.
Well, they probably do a little embellishing here and there.
Make it their own story.
Yeah. But it was to go back to what you were just talking about whenever you said, like, limbs and this and that broken and, mouths sewn shut, missing fingers and stuff like that. I came across, like, one this is terrifying. It doesn't even sound true to me, but there was one particular woman that they would break her bones on purpose in certain places and reset them wrong so that she would resemble a crab.
Isn't that disgusting?
That is so disgusting.
I have heard that. It's creepy. You know, it's this story is so old that there is very little documentation. There is some documentation, like the judge that went in to rescue, and these enslaved people were found in horrific conditions, very much neglected, abused, tortured, in chains
Malnourished.
and collars, malnourished. That is a fact because there's
Yeah.
testimony from him in court. But I'm sure this story has been embellished and embellished. And it's just to, it's a kind of like a sightseeing thing. People go to New Orleans and they go around to the haunted houses and things like that. And the tour guides try to make everything scarier, which it doesn't need to be. It's scary enough. So, and then did you watch American Horror Story: The Coven with
I
Kathy
did.
Bates
Yeah.
portraying? I think I watched it so long ago. I just remember snippets. I think I remember the falling and then the well, the girl falling or jumping, and then the well part, different things. But I remember Kathy Bates. She's such an amazing actress.
She's
She plays
absolutely amazing.
evil so well.
I know, it's kinda scary. I mean,
It is scary.
Misery? Come on. Misery when she hopped.
Misery, boy. Ooh,
Mm.
those ankles.
And then she can also play, like, the sweetest person.
Right?
I don't
But
remember the
his
name. I don't remember the name of the show, but it didn't last long. It was, she owned a dispensary.
I didn't see that one.
That was a pretty good show. I was sad to see that it left. I don't remember what it was called though, but yeah, she was so sweet, nice, and kind, but she can be so evil too.
And she does that
Such a
well.
good actress.
If anyone's interested in kind of separating out some of the fact from the lore, there is a book called Mad Madame LaLaurie, written by Victoria Costner Love and Lorelei Shannon, which is pretty good. And they really get into there is documentation about this. This is lore. There's nothing to back it up. So if you really want to peel apart the layers, then I recommend Mad Madame LaLaurie book. And then the house that's standing is no longer the original.
Oh, it was completely redone, wasn't it?
Yeah, it burned down and was destroyed. They redid it, but the land is the same.
The You
Yeah,
can't get rid of the land, the bad juju that goes around that property. No, you can't get rid of that. Tear the house down, do whatever you want, but you can't get rid of all that history and all the horrible stuff that happened there.
it's disgusting. Yep.
Yeah.
So, shall we talk about some of the historical information? Did you
Yeah.
want to talk any more about kind of the lore and the story of it before we go into that?
I don't know if I really have anything about the lore and the story, but I think we
Well, let's.
covered it all.
So, the mansion at 1140 Royal Street was built in 1831. It was a Creole styled architecture with tall, narrow windows and metal balconies and an inner courtyard. Since it was the LaLaurie's home, it's been several things, and the
It was a black girls' school, wasn't it? Why would you do that? And then it was a couple other things. It was a
furniture store,
furniture
and there
store.
was, like, weird stuff happening all the time in the store.
Yeah.
Like, the furniture was getting destroyed when the business was closed down and lots of weird things
But then
happening.
you think about furniture getting destroyed. I mean, all those people broke into there
Oh my god, I
and
didn't even think about that.
destroyed all her furniture and everything.
I did not even think about that. That is so true.
It's just like history repeating itself. That's weird.
It was also the rebuilt home was owned by Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, he lost it in 2009 due to tax reasons, but he owned it for
Mhm.
a while. He loves New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that didn't we go on a cemetery tour and we
We
saw
w
his
we saw his and it's a like a pyramid.
it's a pyramid, I don't know, I guess like a
Yeah.
tomb kind of
Yeah, and that's his
situation? Yeah,
plot that he
that's where he's going to be
that's where
forever
he's
one
gonna
day.
be.
Interesting man.
Yeah, he really loves New Orleans.
He does, yeah, a lot of people do.
I thought, like, why a pyramid? Like, from I
I
don't know.
know, maybe a triangle pyramid has special meaning to
Who
him.
knows?
I don't know. I guess we can move on to actually Miss Delphine LaLaurie, born Marie Delphine McCarty in approximately 1775. This is a long time ago, and the records, some of them contradict.
Yeah, isn't
Anyway,
it
go ahead.
so it's so funny that, every time that I research something, I'll research one on, like, from one source, and then the next source, it's a different year. I'm like, I don't know who to
It's a
believe.
game of telephone.
She was born in New Orleans, 1787.
Okay, I have that. That's what I
That's
have.
what I
One
have.
place though showed 1775. Another one I saw
Yeah,
showed 1787. Some of this is history and some of this is lore.
of course.
But not much is known of kind of how she was as a child. She grew up in a very prominent Creole family. There are accounts that she was a beautiful child, although there are no known existing photos of her. I hope at some point someone will find one in an attic.
So, that's funny that you said that because
What
one
did
of
you hear? What did you
one of
learn?
the things that I wanted to do because they say that she was so beautiful.
Hmm.
One of the things that I wanted to do, which I never did, is I wanted to, like, look up a photo of her, but I
Does it have to
haven't
have
yet. So, there's no photos of her?
There's no photo. There is a painting of her, but this was done after her death by a painter who just painted, I believe, his vision of what she probably
His
looked like.
rendition. Okay.
Thank you, his rendition. But again, maybe somebody will find something in an old trunk or in their attic, and
My
we'll see what she
goodness.
looks like. Wouldn't that be
Can
cool?
you could you imagine if, like, one day, maybe the mansion as it is now, maybe it becomes something else and they completely excavate it, and then they find, like, photos, like, under the ground, and we
Or
finally get a
bodies,
more bodies?
more bodies than they found the first time.
Yeah, but I wanna know what she looked like.
Yeah, you're gonna have to imagine it.
Yeah, I can't imagine
I
a woman
imagine her looking like Kathy Bates. That's all I can picture. That's all I can picture. So she grew up on this plantation, right? The McCarty plantation in very high station. Likely she was hobnobbing and rubbing shoulders with all these people in high society. So her first husband was very prominent in the Spanish controlled government. It was in Louisiana at that time, was controlled by the Spanish government.
Can I go back to something real quick?
Please do.
Okay, so, like, research her family.
Uh-huh.
Oh, they're very prominent, they were, like, the wealthiest people. They practiced I don't know if you know what the bacchanalia is?
Bacchanal, that's where it's like almost like a drunk orgy, isn't it?
Her mom and dad used to have bacchanalia parties.
Oh,
So, at the time that they were
where was
doing
little
that,
Delphine during all this?
Delphine and her brother were 9 and let's see, 9 and 13. I think she was 13. I think her brother was younger than her, right? So her brother Luis, so I don't know if he was older or younger, but their ages were about 9 and 13 when their parents were having these bacchanalia parties. So it was a Roman Greco, the god of wine and ecstasy. So
Mhm.
they'd have these lavish parties and all the adults were it's drunken orgies.
That was their parents' mindset, and
That gives insight to how they grew up.
yeah, it does give some kind of because that much is documented on her childhood. There was like a Haitian uprising of slavery around this time. I think she was young, like a young girl, and her uncle
Her uncle,
was
yeah.
murdered by one of his enslaved people, and
Uncle was killed.
yes, he was
They
murdered,
he was
which he
murdered.
probably deserved it.
Absolutely, 1,000%. You can't treat people like that. They're not gonna
But
put up with it forever.
that might have put them in the mindset of really oppressing and being
Mhm.
worried about future uprisings.
And then whenever the Haitian uprising came, a lot of them flooded into New Orleans to like start new. So then their family was like, shit. So they were like on guard, and that probably made it even worse.
We'll go into her first marriage. So this woman was married 3 times and widowed twice. Interestingly, her first 2 husbands passed away and there's no record of their deaths. I think during that time, if people didn't pass away at home, then that was kind of common too. So it's weird or maybe not that weird.
Her first husband, hold on, let me see here. I have his full name. Get ready for this.
Okay. Roll your R's.
I'll try. I'll do my best here. His name was Roman Lopez y Angelo de la Candelaria.
Beautifully said.
I was like, dude, save some names for the rest of us, man. You can't have all the names.
I think it was very beautiful the way you said it. They got married at the St. Louis Cathedral. So if you're ever in New Orleans and you go to Jackson Square, that cathedral is there. It's so beautiful. If you get a chance, go in and look at it. But that's where they were married.
At the time that they were married, she was only 14. It was 35.
Gross. But that
Gross.
was pretty common back then, but it's still gross.
Yeah, true. It's still gross though. But that's the time like it was so that was in 1800 that they got married. Napoleon ended up selling it. That's when the Louisiana Purchase happened. It was 3 years later. It was 1803.
Right. So then it went from France to control of the United States.
Yeah, and then in comes her husband to run it all because he was high up. And then he got in trouble because, he's from Spain. He was in like the what did they call it? The Spanish crown. And he was basically that was like a political merger. It was basically a transaction. But he got in trouble because he didn't ask permission to marry a child.
Uh-huh.
So he was shipped back and she followed him back. He begged for forgiveness. They don't take that stuff lightly. So, like, he was in a lot of trouble and he basically begged for forgiveness and everything. She evidently was so beautiful that whenever she came back with him, they actually pardoned him and was like, no, you're fine. And then they were going to go back to Louisiana. She left before him. She went to Havana. While she was in Havana, he mysteriously died. His
Of
ship
heart failure.
That's what they say.
That's what they
But
say. Yeah.
here's part of the lore. They say the ship went down and he was lost to the sea.
Yeah, that's one take.
Yeah,
I think
but
most of what
who
I
knows?
heard was on his journey back, he had heart failure in Havana. And then she in Havana, I believe, gave birth to their daughter.
Yeah. That was Borgita. Yeah.
Her name was Marie Delphine Lopez Angelo. Did I say that last name right?
Well, they always had so many names back then.
But they called her Borgita, which I think is the cutest
Borgita.
little nickname. So cute. Little Borgita.
But yeah, so it was crazy because she was not even 20 years old and she went through all this stuff. Like she's already a widow. She had her first child. She went through all this political scandal, traveling back and forth, and she's not even 20 yet.
So then she marries Jean Blanc, her second husband. And this guy was a little shady, working both sides of the law, from what I hear. They were married in about 1808 when Borquita was 8. And he was a native of France.
And it says on paper he was respectable. He was a merchant, baker, lawyer, owns property.
Legislator.
Yeah, legislator.
How can one guy be all of that?
I know. Crazy, right? But then he had a dark side. He was also shady as hell, taking in shipments of like slave trades and all that. He was friends with The Laffittes, Jean and Pierre Lafitte,
The
the
pirates.
the most famous pirates ever. They were bros, so he was shady as hell.
And then what's weird, he completely disappeared in 1818. We don't know if he died. We don't know if he ran away. We don't know if the law caught up to him and all his shady ways. He just gone in 1818 and left Delphine with 4 children along with Borquito.
Can I get into the names of the children? Okay. I don't know what she was doing here. So there was 3 daughters and 1 son that he left her with. And she also has Borgita. So now she has 5. But from him, she had Marie Louise Pauline, Louise Marie LaLaurie, Marie Louise Lejeune, and Jean Pierre Pauline. That's a lot of names.
Well, I guess you could just say Marie and Louise and get somebody.
You can just anybody come running.
I think that was common back then to name like your kids all the same name and just switch it up. It's bizarre.
Just like
So now she has the 4 kids, well, now 5, and a lot of money. You know, she was left with a lot of money.
And her mom had died, so she left her like an inheritance.
You know what's interesting? There's a document recorded in 1819, July of 1819, where Delphine emancipated an adult 50-year-old enslaved person. And it was recorded in an emancipation petition. And she said that Jean Louise has always led honest conduct, not run away, and not conducted any crime. It happens soon after her husband disappears or is dead. I don't know. I just think that's interesting. I just want to say that. So, shall we do you want to talk any more about Jean Blanc or that time period before we move into her 3rd marriage?
No, we'll just say that, like after he died, she didn't like collapse or anything or retreat. She just did what she does and she moved on.
Being very social.
Yeah. She negotiated with creditors.
Oh, husband number 3,
Mhm.
Louis LaLaurie.
Yep.
Is it Louis or Louis?
I say Louis. It's French.
Louis. He's French. He was from France, people.
Yeah.
January 12th, 1828, married.
Yep.
Miss Delphine. He had graduated from a French medical school. Back then, medicine was largely unregulated. He may have graduated as a dentist or something, but it was very common practice that they would practice many different fields of medicine. They wouldn't just stick just to one thing. But this particular doctor really studied physical deformities.
He was known for fixing back hunches.
Every time we hear the story about the LaLaurie Mansion, Delphine is the one that's always tied to the torture and medical atrocities. But here in the home, and he was there when the fire broke out, even
And
though
he's the one that blocked the firefighters from going up to the attic.
So true. And he's a doctor and he specialized in physical deformities. So I don't know why his name doesn't come up connected to the atrocities.
I thought the same thing.
More.
I'm like,
Is it
wait a minute, this
interesting?
guy was complicit in this. He had
Absolutely.
everything to do with it. He was also the first one that was younger than her. So, like, all of her other husbands were like, they were way older than her, but he was the first one that was younger than her. She was a cougar. He was how much younger? He was 15 years younger than her.
That's a bit.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an age gap. It doesn't seem like, according to this, that age really mattered back then. There were no documents that he was doing any experiments during that time. But again, this is a long time ago, and there are very little historical documents. There were rumors in 1832 of slave abuse, had those enslaved people removed from them, but then relatives got them back and took them right back to the home, which we talked about earlier, which is
That's
horrible.
horrifying. I can't even imagine.
So, Madame LaLaurie actually issued a summons in 1832. She petitioned the court for separation from Dr. LaLaurie due to ill treatment, physical mistreatment, and asked the court allowing her to stay at the mansion on Royal Street. I don't think it was very permanent because when the fire broke out, he was at the
There.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't it's interesting.
They weren't even living in the same quarters half the time. He stayed somewhere else, but then, they'd come back
I can see
together.
that.
So, yeah, it was kind of a weird marriage. And yeah, I guess he was abusive from all accounts, but I mean, she was abusive too. So I don't think anybody's to blame there. They're both to blame.
There's actually documentation in court records that during this same time, there was a petition to the court to free one of their enslaved people. It was around the time that her second husband passed that she emancipated one. And then it was right after she filed for the petition for separation that she petitioned to free another one. So, like, the timing is kind of odd.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really go with her kind of behaviors that we know of how she treated them. But because she cared so much about her station in society, there was probably this putting on of airs of, oh, look what I'm doing. But then behind closed doors, completely different treatment.
Well, that's by all accounts, she was like to the public. Everyone knew her as just so courteous and cordial and like, very generous. She was like outside. She was just like, this woman's awesome. Having these parties, everything. She just like feed you, give you drinks, this and that. And she just, yeah, she nailed that part on the outside, but nobody knew what was going on behind closed doors, just like you were saying.
Horror. It was like a horror movie going on behind closed
Absolutely.
doors.
This is the time that they purchased that house.
When oh, yeah, was, in 1832 that they purchased it. I think it was built the year before.
Of 1831.
A Creole style home with a courtyard.
The courtyard, slave quarters along the rear wall that had very, very low ceilings, airless and dim. But on the second floor was the main living quarters. And then there were parlors and they had 15-foot ceilings, mahogany furniture, silk draperies from Paris, oil paintings hung on the wall, a dining room that set 20 people, a ballroom that set more, and then on top, the famous attic.
Mm.
Disgusting.
So all of that stuff you just described, all that fancy curtains and art, that's what they wanted to save rather than the humans
And that was on
in the
the
house.
second level. Yeah. And then right above, like, while people were partying and having a great time, all this lavish ballroom stuff, everything, they didn't realize that just above their head, all that was going on. All that human torture and everything was right above them.
Horrible.
Absolutely horrible.
Well, I would never diagnose anybody who I've not assessed, especially somebody who's not alive. But I thought we could use her behaviors as a sounding board for discussion. The DSM, which is a diagnostic and statistical manual, is a manual for diagnosing, also for research and billing, and it has categories set up for diagnosis. And then there's another manual called the PDM, which is a psychodynamic diagnostic manual, where the DSM is more objective. It's like what we observe in mental health, the behaviors. The PDM is more of the subjective, how the person is experiencing their life, and maybe gives us more insight to their behaviors. But the three topics that come to mind when discussing her, well, actually, I'm going to ask you, of any mental health diagnosis or anything that you've heard of, did anything come to mind for you during this, whether it's like an actual diagnosis or just kind of a term that's used in the general public?
All I know is general public terms.
And
I
what comes to mind?
absolute narcissist. That's pretty much what comes to mind to me. But it's just
Yes.
like maybe I don't know the specific terms or whatever, but I think narcissist, it's like a person that thinks that they're above everyone else. They put themselves first. It's just me, me, me. Everyone else is below me. Is that correct or not?
Yes, narcissistic personality disorder. I wanted to talk about that. So I'm glad that you brought that up and that came to your mind. I also wanted to talk about antisocial personality disorder, also known as psychopathic personality, and then just kind of that sadistic behavior.
Oh, okay. See, I
So,
wouldn't I wouldn't think of I would have said psychopath, but
mhm,
you said antisocial, but she was very social.
yes.
So I don't know.
Thank you for bringing that up. I love that you said that
I
because we're going to talk about that because that is kind of a misnomer in the title of antisocial, which is in the DSM.
Okay.
And that's why in the PDM, they call it psychopathic. I wanted to talk about the first thing that you brought up was narcissistic personality disorder. They have lack of empathy. They need a lot of admiration.
Yes.
And that sounds very much like, she really wanted to be in high society and have these fancy parties at her fancy house and have all the high station people there.
And, like, look at how good I'm doing, look at all that I have, look at me, admire me, give me compliments, sounds like that.
Right. And then they can be very exploitive, fantasies of power, brilliance, beauty. They always want to feel special, have very arrogant behavior, self preoccupation. They also compare themselves to others a lot. Well, this is how I'm doing financially. How are they doing? This is what I'm driving. What are they driving? These are my friends. Who are their friends? Who are they hanging out with? They always want to be above.
That sounds like Facebook.
Gosh, you probably just unraveled something. They devalue other people. So that makes them feel greater. They like to be in high status relationships. So a lot of times they'll have a partner because that partner's beautiful or that partner, maybe their family is well to do. So they try to use people as a tool to get what they want. All of that is lying on top of a very unstable foundation of low self esteem, feeling empty inside. They feel very vulnerable. They carry a lot of shame, be insecure, and self critical. And who knows what causes it? Some of it is somewhat hereditary, some of it is adverse childhood events, actual neurotransmitter like serotonin and dopamine regulation. Studies have shown that there are structural and functional issues that are going on, but they just have a hard time with emotional regulation and social cognition. Do you see that going on in the story?
Yeah, it seems like it to me. That is like the
Mhm.
first thing that I thought of.
I wanted to talk about antisocial personality disorder. So, that is the title of the diagnosis in the DSM, but the psychodynamic diagnostic manual, they use the term psychopathic because they feel like antisocial, the behaviors are not always antisocial. Like you pointed out, she was very social.
Yeah, that's what threw me off.
When we hear people talk about psychopaths and sociopaths, that falls under that psychopathic personality. They can come across as charismatic and very charming. They tend to read others really, really well. And I
That
think
sounds
that's
like her.
just yeah, because they want to use that person, right? So they pick up on little things and so they can manipulate people and take advantage of them and exploit them. That antisocial or also known as psychopathic. They lie, deceive, exploit. So we're seeing that exploiting again. A lot of the same kind of taking advantage of other people, exploiting people. This they have reckless disregard of rights of others, of property, of other people's safety, and a lack of empathy, which we see in narcissistic personality, that lack of empathy. Although in narcissistic, they can have intellectual empathy. So they understand, like, oh, you're feeling bad right now because of something. They know it, they just don't feel it. And in antisocial or psychopathic, you see no remorse at all and lack of insight. They blame others, they intimidate, they're violent, they dominate, impulsive, and thrill seeking, and irresponsible. So if you see this in any financial obligation or family obligation, they're not going to follow through. They're completely
Mm.
irresponsible. So when looking at these two, I think the most important distinction is with narcissistic, it lies on that bed of low self esteem. And with antisocial, they don't care what anybody thinks of them. Narcissistic, they're trying to look good, they're trying to impress everyone. And antisocial, they could care less.
Could care less what other
Could
people
care less.
think of about them.
So, sadistic personality is no longer in the DSM, but it is still in the PDM. It's organized around the theme of domination, controlling, and forcing pain and humiliation on others. And this one is very recognizable. As soon as you see it, you know it. It's not somebody who gets violent out of anger or frustration. They're very coolly detached while they are doing the thing. They have no emotion. They
Talking
have
like Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff like that.
serial killer style. Mhm.
Okay.
Just like guiltless, almost enthusiasm. Professionals that interview people with this type of personality report feelings of visceral disturbance. They just feel unease, creepiness. And I was thinking about Hannibal Lecter when I was reading about this, like that
Wow.
Clarice Starling interviewing him, and you could just feel she's creeped out,
Yeah.
but intrigued, like she wants to understand what is going on. The best way to deal with somebody with a sadistic personality disorder is to stay away and keep yourself safe. With narcissistic personality disorder, there is hope and treatment with therapy. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have insight and don't seek out therapy or mental health help. Often you'll see the family members seeking out
I would think that
help.
if that's kinda like a double-edged sword. I would think that if you are actually narcissistic, you would never admit that you are because that's kind of that goes hand in hand. You're like, "No, I'm not. I'm better than that." Admit defeat.
Right.
Man, that's a trip. I never thought about that.
So, the state of mental health during this time, asylums were the primary place for psychiatric care. And psychiatrists would go out to these asylums, and most of them were remote. And they held a ton of patients. And the goal wasn't to cure them, it was just to contain them. And they called the psychiatrists at that time alienists because yeah, because they would oftentimes stay on these grounds and it was like way out in a rural area. So the term alienist, alienation away from society. They had very structured routines. They wanted to give them purposeful work, even though that was emerging. That was not the case very often. And they were moving away in psychiatry at that time from bleeding, purging, and chains like in earlier approaches. Physical restraints during this time went from chains to straitjackets. And then social attitudes, a lot of fear, a lot of prejudice about mental health.
Yeah, because it was not they didn't know anything about that back then.
Right. And then very wealthy people would send relatives to what they called private madhouses, which was kind of like a little country getaway. But what they called the pauper lunatics, those went into the institution, into these asylums to contain them and segregate them
Just to have them away from everyone else.
away.
And
Mhm.
what I think I've heard this, didn't men that didn't like the way their wives were behaving, they'd just send them off to one of these treatment
Yes.
facilities.
Yes,
They're
that
like,
would
"Oh,
happen.
she has a bad attitude," and then they would
Mhm.
just send them off.
Yes.
What? That's
There is a book written by Nellie Bly. During this time, this young girl that was a reporter in New York City took an assignment of going undercover as a reporter, faking insanity to get admitted to a mental institution so she could research it. Days in a madhouse. So she was there for 10 days. So she fakes insanity and she goes inpatient there, but she reports on women who were just foreign. I think one of them was from Germany and spoke a different language, and she didn't understand what they were saying, and so they put her in the insane asylum because they didn't know what to do with her. And once you would go in, there was no way to prove that you weren't insane
no.
because the treatment they would put them in cold showers and not feed them well, and nobody is going to act like we would normally do in society under those horrible conditions.
So then you're responding to the weird treatment, and then
Mhm.
it makes you look to them like, "Yeah, see, they're insane. They're not acting normal." Well, of
And
course they're not acting normal. Look at the circumstances.
right. Their actions are appropriate to their environment.
Yeah, wow.
So check it out. Nellie Bly. The culture. Should we talk about the culture
Culture?
of New Orleans during that time?
For
It was Spanish and then French. The major religions were Catholicism and Voodoo. So Voodoo was
it.
derived from hoodoo, which is a West and Central African folk magic, spirit practices for protection, healing, love, and luck. And, we talked about in the beginning Marie Laveau, who was the voodoo priestess. She practiced a lot of voodoo, but also a lot of Catholicism.
Yeah, she actually practiced, like everybody thinks of voodoo, like, as, like, black magic and, stuff
Hmm.
like that. No, she was trying to help everybody. It wasn't dark
She tried to help
stuff.
everybody. Yeah.
It wasn't dark stuff like people like, you think of voodoo and you're like, "Oh, that's creepy, weird." No, this was like just and like you said, Catholicism. She believed in God and everything, and she was just trying to help.
And then there was a Louisiana Code Noir, which was a decree in 1724 from the French colonial empire. It was just very little and meager protections for the enslaved people during that time. It forbade torture, mutilation, and sexual abuse, but it did allow for confinement, chaining, and whipping, which is horrible.
It's still sad.
It's
I
horrible.
looked that up and I was like, "Man, these are the people that are trying to be good." Like, no, we're the good part of having enslaved people. You are allowed to whip them, but you can't torture them. Just I was like, "Well, you shouldn't be allowed to own people." It's just ridiculous. But yeah, they had codes like, "This is how you're allowed to treat your enslaved people." It's like, wow, that sentence doesn't even register.
And why should we talk about it now, right? Why bring it up? It's horrible. It's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yep.
But those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be brave and look at things that happened
Yeah.
and make sure that we're moving forward in
And
a
even if it's uncomfortable to talk about it, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but you still have to talk about it and
we don't want to erase history. We don't want to repeat
realize
it
realize that it happened and learn from it and don't repeat it.
and continue to advocate for rights and dignity for everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody.
If you have any ideas for a story or topic, please email us at psychloresarah@gmail.com.
You can also email me at psychloresteve@gmail.com.
Stay curious and stay psyched.
Psych, lore, and insights.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is not meant as medical advice. I am not advising or diagnosing. If you are struggling or you know somebody who is, please have them reach out to a licensed professional. And 988 is a crisis line that you can reach out to anytime, talk or text.